What is true forgiveness? True forgiveness is not pardoning someone for their actions and for hurting us. It's not excusing them and saying, oh, they did the best with what they had. It's not even about the other person. Forgiveness is really internal. Forgiveness actually has nothing to do with the person who hurt you. Forgiveness comes from when we get to a place that when we are hurt so badly from another person, we have to help ourselves. We have to grow, we have to learn, we have to heal. And sometimes it's a very, very long and painful process, a process we would never have had to go through if we weren't hurt by the person or people that hurt us. And this process that we go through, no matter how long it takes, it turns us into a person that we never knew we could ever be. We become smarter. We could become stronger than we ever thought we could ever be. We become wiser, and we change. We change into a completely new person. We're not the person that was hurt by that other person. We are no longer that same person. And without going through this process of constant healing, you can't get to the place of forgiveness. By constantly working on ourselves and what we've gone through, we can get to a place where we can say, you can no longer hurt me. You are no longer relevant in my pain, because I have become someone that I would never, ever be if I didn't go through what I went through. Do you have anything to add to that? Do you agree? Do you agree?
100%. There's no question. And yeah, life changes us. Everything changes us. Every experience changes us. And it's just a work in progress. It's a lifelong journey.
Because I often hear, it doesn't, I don't agree when someone says, I went through something, but it was meant to be. I think that's a very painful thing to hear. Someone that was, God forbid, abused, and you tell them, oh, it's part of God's plan. That's really hurtful to hear. I think that's a very hurtful thing to hear, because I don't think Hashem wants us to go through all that stuff. Obviously, it is part of his plan, but like to say that to a person that's gone through so much pain, I think that's very hurtful. But if we know that whatever we went through, we have to work on ourselves. We have to work through whatever it is that we went through to get to a place where the forgiveness is inside ourselves. So many times you hear people say, I'll never forgive myself. So not only is forgiveness about forgiving other people, it's also about forgiving ourselves. There's things I've done as a parent, as a spouse, as a friend, as a daughter, as a sibling that I'm not proud of. And we can all use that saying, I did the best with what I had, which is true, but it doesn't excuse our behavior. It could explain our behavior. But when we dig deep, I think a beautiful example is from Dr. Edith Eger. She said she was standing in line with her mother in front of Dr. Mangala, and he looked at her and he said, is this your mother or is this your sister? And she looked up at her mother and she said, that's my mother. And he said, mother to the left, you to the right. And that was her mother's death sentence. And for years, she felt responsible for her mother's death. For years. And she writes in her book how she looks back after doing so much work on herself. And she looks back and she says, you know what? I'd been on a train for days. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't slept. I had no idea where I was. I had no idea where I was going. She looked at that little girl and she said, how were you supposed to know? how are you supposed to know the right answer to anything during those times, especially under those circumstances? And she learned to forgive herself. But it took years. And there's so many things that we need to be kind to ourselves when forgiving ourselves for things that we did, because we're not the same person that we were a month ago. We're not the same person that we were a year ago. We're not the same person that we were 10 years ago. And we keep growing and we keep evolving. And to constantly be angry at ourselves for choices we made and things that we did is not healthy. And the act of forgiveness is not just forgiving others for hurting us, it's also forgiving ourselves for choices that we made and things that we did. Rivky, please enlighten us.
Yeah, I'm with you. Everything you're saying is just so on target, and that's really the bottom line. I think that before we want to forgive others, we want to definitely go inside and forgive ourselves. Today is Hey Teves. The day this farm came back to 770, and the Rebbe said on Hey Teves that everyone should write upon a letter, and they should send it in. And he's not looking or reading any letter. He's gonna put it on the resting place of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And the Rebbe uses the word in Yiddish, Shem sich nicht. Don't be embarrassed. Don't worry what you write. Whatever you write, just open your heart and say whatever you want and ask for whatever you want. And I think that concept of just not being embarrassed and being able to just be yourself and forgive yourself for anything that you might think is trivial to ask the Rebbe or to say or to want or to desire. We need to forgive ourselves for feeling like we need to be subhuman. Just this morning, I put my son on the bus. So I made sure he went to the bathroom. I made sure he ate breakfast. He's wearing delicious, clean clothes. He has snack in his backpack, plus he has a mitzvah note. We were on time. It was relaxing. We were waiting outside a few minutes before the bus. Like, it was a good morning. As he goes on the bus, I suddenly see his nose is running. So I take a tissue and I wipe it. And he got so upset at me. He's like, don't wipe my nose. And he went on the bus half crying. And there it went. I just said to myself, "Oh, Rivky, you should have been more gentle. You should have realized before and then wiped it so then he could calm him down before he goes on the bus. Now he went on the bus half crying." And it's like, I just want perfection. I want to expect perfection of myself. And, what he got on the bus, I came upstairs, I sat down, I said, "Rivky, I know." I validated myself. I said, "I know. You wish his nose wouldn't have ran. You wish he wouldn't have cried. You wish you would have seen it first. I know you wanted him to go on the bus smiling. But you know what? You're not perfect. And I forgive you. And let's focus on the things you did do right that you had control over. You made sure he went to the bathroom. You did all the things that you were able to control." And I think it's that concept that sometimes we don't forgive ourselves because you had 10 things on your list. You did 9, but 1 you didn't. And that's all we focus on. I can't believe I didn't get it done. Forgive yourself for being human and focus on the things that you do. There's a very good format of writing letters to yourself or just saying it out loud, whatever is more comfortable, of helping yourself, process your emotions. So it goes like this. Let's use this really trivial example of my son on the bus. Sounds crazy, but it took me down for a little because I'm like, I don't want my son to go on the bus crying, but yeah, I wiped his nose and he doesn't like it, and I'm not sending my son. If I see him with that nose, I'm not sending him on the bus like that, Anyway, so if this is obviously we can do this for things that are really pressing on our heart, but something so small was able to just move on. So what happened? My son's nose was running, and when I wiped it, he was crying. He felt upset. He was half crying when he went on the bus. He's only 3. So how did that make you feel? It made me feel sad. It made me feel upset because I like to see my son go off happy. And that's the first part of the letter is what happened, how it made you feel. And then the second part of the letter is, what do you wish happened? And then how would that make you feel? So what do I wish happened? I wish that he would have just gone on the bus and then happy, leaving him happy. How would that make you feel? That would make me feel so happy inside. Like I tried my best, my yummy, delicious son, I sent him off, everything is fine. And then just, however many times you need to just go through that. I know, I wish, because in this case, it's, in and out, it's just a nose. But like, let's say it's something that happened in your childhood or an experience that you had that something, you're at work and you make a big mistake and it really is hard to get over. So you write a letter or you say to yourself, what happened? How does that make you feel? What do you wish happened? I wish I just would have known what to do. I wish I would have not screwed up. I wish I would have done the right thing. I wish I would have not done anything, whatever it is, and what comes up for you. And that really helps you validate. And you can do it in any scenario that comes up for you, things that are happening present, things that happen in the past. And another part of forgiveness is getting over the shame of what happened. Like Brene Brown says, shame loves secrecy. So talk about it. Like, what did you do already that you can't? Like, sometimes we think, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. Okay, maybe it is embarrassing, but talk about it. When you talk about it, the Tzemach Tzedek says that when you have a cure in your heart, speak about it with a friend, someone who's going to care, because the first thing to get over something is to talk about it and release it. And sometimes we're like, we just walk around with this shame. It kind of creeps up on us all the time. Just let it out in the open. And that's very helpful. And the question with, shame and wanting to forgive ourselves and holding grudges and resentment, a professor once said to his students, okay, everybody hold this cup. And he said, so how, no, he showed them a pitcher of water and he said, how heavy is it? And everybody had a different explanation to how heavy it was. And then he says, you know what the real answer is? How heavy is this pitcher of water? The answer is how long you carry it. So if you hold the pitcher for 10 seconds while you're pouring the water, that's very light. But if you hold it for 5 whole minutes, it starts to get heavy. If you hold it a longer and longer and longer, and it just sometimes we have stuff in us that we're carrying, not just a minute, a day, a week, 2 weeks. It's like things that are bothering us. I just processed something that happened 3 years ago, and I was like, I thought I was over it, and whoa, the emotions that came out were so strong. So even reliving and processing information that happened a while ago that you're holding on to, let it go. It's like some people are walking around with furniture on their backs and they don't know it, but it's in their body and the body keeps the score. So we really want to, and this, with Yosef, it's just like so amazing with this Parsha, how he just was able to say, it's okay. I get it. This is the will of Hashem, and we're not on such a high level, but we can always work on ourselves to be done the kafchos and try not to judge. And I feel like when we make peace with ourselves and when we forgive ourselves, it's a lot easier to just be more forgiving to others. And when we realize that whatever we're doing is Hashem's will and whatever happens to us, Hashem's will, it just gives us an easier life. I was thinking of this analogy. Like living with Hashem is like either you're going to take your own car and go somewhere, or you're going to hop on a bus and the bus will take you there. So when the bus takes you somewhere, you don't have to pay for gas. You don't have to know the directions. You don't have to actually drive and stop by signs and drive and focus. You could just sit in the back and relax. And that's what it feels like to be connected to Hashem. You don't have to know the directions. You don't have to put gas in. You don't have to drive the car. You're sitting in the back of the car and Hashem is driving. So we want to connect to Hashem, be that little kid sitting on the back of the bus, not worrying about anything. Or even when I go to the aisle, I love sitting on the aisle bus. They're going to take me and take me back. So I don't have to worry. And speaking about aisle, as today is Hey Teves, such a good idea to download the app. It's called aisle. It's like a little feather. And talk to the Rebbe, not just on Hey Teves, whatever you want. And just keep up that connection and know that whatever happens in your life is because that's what Hashem wants, and everything that happens is for the good.
Yeah.